All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Frankenstank Show. This is episode 4 of the Frankenstank Show, where we are basically just talking about all the new monster cards. Some are older cards that have been around for a while, 25 of them to be exact, and some of those were even retweaked. But we have 95 new monster cards for next season. For those of you that have missed the previous episodes, you can go back and watch them. I've got them all on the same playlist. But basically, we are adding. You're going to have 3 monster cards to start the season off. So a whole lot of battling with monster cards. It's less and less fantasy football related. I get it, but at the core of it, you still need your players to play well, and you need to know how to hamper your opponents. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to bring on veterans that have been in the Frankenstank. I got my man Brian here. You might know him better as the manager of the Redneck Torture family on Frankenstank. So Brian, we were talking a little bit before I pulled you up here about the movie Cabin in the Woods. But yeah, just tell the listeners why, if they haven't seen the Cabin in the Woods, why they should make that trek.
Sure. So, Cabin in the Woods is an interesting movie in the horror genre because it's very tongue in cheek. It pokes fun at a lot of the other uh, genre movies that are out there for in horror, but it does it with a lot of fan service, and it does it in a way that also is very respectful.
Yeah.
Right. The acting's on par with what you would expect from a summer horror movie, but the comedy's also right up there and it doesn't cross the line. It just gets right to the line of being disrespectful. But again, it's tongue in cheek. It's super underrated. It's one of my favorite horror movies. I'm one the guy that can read Stephen King and go to just before bed and dream of sunshine and rainbows and have no problem. So I know horror's been around for a bit in my life, but yeah, Cabin in the Woods, it's a pretty epic movie.
Yeah, it even avoids the gruesome gore up until like the very end too. So, and
Yes.
you're anticipating it the whole time. So when you finally get it, it is nice. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I mentioned too that the last guy that was on the last episode here was my buddy Wyatt. And he had his team name also based off of the same movie, the Buckner Family Massacre. So kind of crazy that you two were the first two to pop up and volunteer to do these shows with me, other than obviously Mark, who's going to be a co-commissioner. But
Sure.
um, and his team name was based off of Art the Clown. Mine has always been Jigsaw from the movie Saw. So you get a basic idea here. If you're watching and you've never played in the Frankenstank before, make sure you hit in the comments if you're interested. I'm going to be opening up registration real soon for Frank 6 in 2026. Like I said, the biggest change by far is going to be the addition of all of the multiple monster cards. Tonight's show, we are talking about 3 brand new cards. Just like last episode, there's no old cards in this one. These are all 3 brand new cards. This is a Google sheet that you'll get when you sign up. As soon as I get your registration and of course your money, then I'll send you this Google sheet that I have worked tirelessly on many hours, and we're gonna finish up the transaction cards. Each section is based off of different types of monster cards. This first section was transaction cards, so basically this player for that player, or fab money, or things like certain trades that can be made, things that affect transactions. So, Brian, we're going to jump right into this first one for tonight, which is David
Right.
Powers, one of my favorite actors of all time, Kiefer Sutherland, mostly because I was hooked to that TV show 24 back in the day. But I didn't get into Lost Boys when it was new, because I was a little bit young at
Right.
that time, and it just kind of vampire movie. I'm usually not into the vampire movies in the horror genre. I'm going to be honest. Certain ones I'll watch. I'll always watch them, but I usually don't really care for them. Much later on, I watched Lost Boys, and after I had already become a Kiefer fan, so maybe that's why I enjoy it so much. But there's so much to love about the Lost Boys. But the character himself, super charismatic. So that's basically what this card is on, is his ability to pull in those misfits, the outcast. So I know you got a chance to read up on the cards before, but I'm going to go ahead and read this description for people that can't see it on their little phone screens right now. But one of David Powers' greatest powers was his powerful charisma. David had an uncanny ability to take any outcast and give them a home where they could feel included and where they could belong. This card works a little bit like the Blob. You cannot use it in the first 2 weeks, but after that, the way that you play this card is that. Or wait a minute. The way you may play this card is that it allows you to steal a player for free from your opponent's roster without sending another player back. So from that aspect, it's just like the Blob. But the catch with this one is that it has to be the player in their starting lineup that was the outcast. And in Frankenstank terms, the outcast is the one player that scored the fewest amount of points in your opponent's starting lineup. Now, so automatically you're thinking, well, with the Blob, I can steal any player on their roster that I want after the game, win or lose, and I don't have to send back a player. With this card, you can only choose the player that scored the least amount of points for that week. So why would I want the Lost Boys over the Blob? The big change here, or the big difference between the two, is that you get to use this card twice. Okay. So you're going to get to effectively steal two players to the Blob's one. Now, with the Blob, obviously, you can wait until you go up against Jonathan Taylor or CMC or, whatever player you really need, that you really want, the best player at their position, and you can just take them then if you want, and hope that you actually get to play them and they don't keep getting passed around from team to team in the vampire steals. With this one, you're limited on who you can steal, but at least you get to steal two players without giving one back, even in a loss. So that's the big difference between the Lost Boys, David Powers, and the Blob. So what are your immediate reactions to this card?
I kind of like it. It gives you the opportunity to get more than one player over the course of the season, right? Which always is nice. And, with the Blob, like you said, you're going for the player that has the high scoring points. But this gets you that guy that had, not necessarily a great week. Like, let's say he goes out in the third quarter with a tweaked knee, but he's fine. Nothing serious, and he's going to be back. He has a low score, so it allows you to get him, if you will, that you really wanted to, and don't have to worry about targeting somebody else. It's really, I see it more as a delayed gratification type card, because you are kind of probably waiting on him to be better. If it is a 2-week injury or something like that, and he goes out in the first quarter, and it's like, oh, I can go target him, and I know he'll be fine later on in the year. And it also gives you a little bit more insurance too on the back end. You can use it again later in the season. So you get really two for the price of one, in my opinion. So I'd see it as more, instead of instant gratification with the Blob, like, what guy you're gonna get, you get him, and he's theoretically good if he's not doesn't have any injuries. But this time around, it's like, okay, you might get multiple sleepers or somebody that somebody might not necessarily target because they went out for the day because of the injury.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the injury is here's when I can tell you the exact moment that I came up with this card. It was at halftime of the Dallas Cowboys and the Chicago Bears game in week 3, when CeeDee Lamb went down in the first half to that injury. He tried to come back in the second quarter, but he recorded 0 points that day, 0 fantasy
Perfect target
across the board. So if you had this card after week 3, you can use that on him, knowing he's going to come back. Like you said, you have to wait on that gratification. You got to wait that extra 2-3 weeks, whatever it was. But eventually you're getting a dynamite player there. But yeah, so that's one strategy. The other strategy is to use this card as a defensive card in a way. Like, maybe you tell your opponent, hey, listen, I know, Jalen Hurts had a horrible game, but I really need a quarterback. But I tell you what, you've also got this other card where you can attack me pretty bad right now, maybe even later in the season, because some of these cards aren't even affecting your opponent now. You're affecting players within your division that you're not even playing. So maybe you make a deal with them. Don't ever use that card against me, and I'll let you slide this week and not use this card on you this week. So, I mean, of course, you can do that with a lot of these cards. Don't get me wrong, but this one in particular, they're losing a key player without getting anybody back. And then also the strategy of like sometimes people will bench their best players, right? Against they can't see it. You're good. Sometimes people will bench their best players to hide them and then try to start other players. So maybe they're starting somebody on bye as a strategy, that, or somebody that's going to be on bye the next week, somebody that's on IR now, thinking, well, you're not going to try to steal them. If they're not paying attention to your cards or know your cards, then you can use this card to steal that player as well. So it's one where your opponent really has to pay attention. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's when you think about it that way, as somebody's trying to be defensive of quote a more powerful card, and you can be a little bit more sneaky with this one, and theoretically, hopefully, keep it in your back pocket. Obviously known, but keep it in your back pocket so that you can make a pretty good steal that sets you up for the future.
Another awesome key card that we have now that I created that's kind of proud of this one just because low key, I'm kind of a fan of this character, Sweeney Todd. And I know it's kind of a one of those underrated horror movies that, didn't get a lot of recognition when it first came out. And I think what recognition it did get was, Johnny Depp. And say what you want about Johnny Depp, all of his characters are basically the same character, but I love that character. Like in any movie that Johnny Depp's ever done, I just love the way that he acts. So I love the movie. I just recently rewatched it like a week ago, not even a week ago. But this card also is super like it can be a key card that you use with other opponents. Well, you know what? I don't want to get too deep into the what ifs and the strategies. That's your job. Let me just read the description. Sweeney Todd was a barber that murdered his customers with a straight razor and then cut up their bodies and gave the meat to the shop lady that owned the meat pie store down below underneath his barbershop. She made them in the meat pies and gave them away to everybody. So, I mean, sharing is caring, right? With this card, you get to share any of your players that you aren't starting for that up and coming week. And let me kind of pause there. If you have CMC on your roster, you can choose not to start him, right? Like I'm not telling you who you have to start, who is a starter and who's a bench player when you read this card. So you can't just assume that it's all your best players and then whoever's on the bench are the ones you can give away. You can give away whoever you want to in this deal. So with this card, you get to share any of your players on your roster that are not starting for you for that up and coming week against your opponent. You may not share this player with your opponent for that week, but you may share this player with any other opponent within your division that you wish to share them with. The other side must agree, meaning that they have the option to say no. I don't know why they would. Maybe they like their situation better. Who knows? But they have to agree to this. And if they don't respond in the MFL message board in time, then it's not going to happen. They have to respond to that message and say, yes, I accept. Let's do this, whatever. And it will happen in the form of a 1 week only trade. Now, you guys are used to Frankenstank where there are no trades. This is an actual non-vampire real trade, albeit it is just for 1 week and with very particular players that are going to be traded back immediately after the week's conclusion. This also means neither of the two players that are eligible, this is a key point to remember with this card, neither of the two players that are eligible to be stolen by either team's opponent in a vampire steal after the week is concluded, and the trade must be a 1-for-1 player deal. So that basically means if I'm gifting you Jonathan Taylor for that week because you have an opponent that I want you to beat, and you give me back whatever player, Tyjae Spears, somebody you're not going to be starting, I have to bench that player. You have to start the player I give you, Jonathan Taylor. But if you lose, Jonathan Taylor still cannot be stolen from you. If I lose or I have an opponent that has a monster card that can take Tajay off of my bench, he's protected too. He cannot be stolen either. So it benefits both teams that way, that you have an extra player that's protected. Let's see. I think I kind of jumped ahead on that one by saying all that. They must start. Okay, you'll still get the players back after the week. You must play this card and make the trade by 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday before Thursday Night Football. And you can play this card up to 3 times during the Frank regular season. Now, this is one where you get to play it 3 times because it's not helping your team a whole lot. Outside of having that extra protected player, which is nice, and maybe they're beating an opponent that's higher than you in the standings or right with you or right under you in the standings. That's all nice, but it's not immediately really like helping your overall team. So you get to use this one 3 times. I felt like it might not be as powerful if I didn't do it that way. So, and then it says you can even choose to play it more than once in a single week, but only 1 player per trade partner, and no more than 3 total trades all season, and no more than 1 trade in the first 2 weeks. So you guys know I like to keep it as mellow as possible the first 2 weeks, so somebody doesn't come right out the gate losing a huge amount of players early. So in the first 2 weeks, you can only you get a total of 3 trades on the season. But if you use it in weeks 1 or 2, you can only do 1 trade. After that, you can trade with 3 different people for all 3 of them if you want. I don't care. And then really get that bonus. So with that one, first, do you have any questions on that one, Brian? Or if not, just what do you think?
No questions. I do really like this card for a lot of different reasons. Say, for example, you had David Powers or the Blob, right? This could be an insurance card for you saying, hey, let's make a trade next week to help you out. I'm not going to steal. I don't want you to play your Blob or Lost Boy cards against me. So it's a little bit of an insurance for your current week as you're playing somebody to help you theoretically both out, or somehow help out your opponent this week and then hit yourself help next week. Right. So it's a little bit more collaborative. It also gives you candidly, a little bit of break from all of the craziness and defensive playing that you have to do, because there are a lot of attack cards in Frankenstein that you're just always trying to like save your ass, if you will. Where here is like, hey, I'm trying to help you, right? Help you, help me type of situation. So it gives you a little bit of a breather room there and make it less intense. Slightly.
Yeah. Some of these descriptions though have me realizing that I need to get somebody with like an English degree to read through these and reword them so that they're easier to understand, because I'm having trouble understanding my own cards that I made up.
I mean, I get it. Basically, you trade 2 people, you give the guy a starter, you get somebody that you put on a bench. You can do that up to 3 times, but you can only do 1 player per trade. That's basically how it comes down to.
And then don't forget, when you get this Google sheet, you can look off to the right to see what these cards can do if you happen to go head to head with them, or if you happen to own both of them, like which card is more powerful than the other, or if they even can be played. Like this one, if your opponent has the Blob and you have Sweeney Todd, the cards don't interact, so they can both play against each other. There's not one that's more powerful than the other. And when that happens, just for those of you that have missed the other episodes, if that happens, then when the commissioners sit down on Tuesdays and start going through all the monster cards and making all the adjustments to the points scored, they're going to start with the one that was played first in most cases. Not all cases. That depends on the card. Some of them, like I said, are more powerful, and they'll jump ahead in line or whatever. But we're going to start with the one that's the most, or the one that was played first, and work our way back until we get to cards that can't be played because of other cards played, or until we're through them all. And then, Brian, for you, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of open squares on this Google Doc because I haven't gotten through them all yet.
I figured.
I haven't gotten through very many of them, actually.
It's okay. But honestly, not only am I looking forward to Frankenstein coming back next season, this is probably the thing I'm looking forward to the most. In my role, I work with Excel and all the time, and I do a lot of like strategy type stuff. So this is going to be immensely helpful, I think. I think it's a great addition for this year. So very excited about it.
Good. So any pointers or or anything you see, let me know.
We can talk.
The last card in the transaction section is also a personal favorite just because of the movie and the character Hans Gruber from Die Hard.
So good. So good.
So, and I get it. It's not a horror film, and I'm I'm on the side of Team Christmas movie. I do believe that this is a Christmas movie.
Me too.
Uh, hey,
It
good.
is
There
a
we go.
Christmas movie. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Um, but Hans was a thief and criminal mastermind that held the Nakatomi Plaza hostage for $640 million. If you play this card by noon Eastern on Thursday before the games start, then you get to take a player hostage from your opponent. If you do, you select the player that you are taking hostage in the MFL message board chat, and that player must be benched by your team must be benched by the team you are playing. Unless, of course, they want to pay the ransom. Now, your opponent may choose to pay a ransom of $150 in fab money, or 50% of what their remaining fab is, whichever is cheapest. So at the beginning of the season, that $150 is going to be the cheaper option. But as you start to run out of your fab, maybe you only have $200 left. 50% of that's going to be $100. So that's going to be cheaper on you. Whichever's cheaper, that's the fab that you're going to pay to get that player out of the hostage situation. But you do have to pay at least a minimum of $50. So basically, if you don't have the $50 or if you don't want to pay the fab money ransom, then you can't play that player that week against your opponent. Let's see. If your opponent goes on to still beat you, then you lose your card. So at any point during the season, if you play this and wait a minute. Nothing else happens. Okay, yeah. If they decide not to pay the ransom, then the player must remain on your bench. Okay, so if their player is on their bench because they didn't pay the ransom, and then they still go on to beat you, then you're going to lose your card. And then let's see. And they get the player back at the end of the week too, regardless whether they paid the ransom and got them in time to play them against you, or if they don't play the ransom and you beat them, then you have to give them back. Or if they do beat you, you got to give them back at the end of the week, regardless. But if they beat you after that player has been after you have taken hostage of that player, then you will lose your card. Now, if you beat your opponent with their hostage player on their bench, then you still get to keep the card. So you use this card, you've taken them hostage, you beat them, you still get to keep the card. But you also lose the card after you have beaten your opponents up to 3 times after using the card and them not paying the ransom, or if a Ghostbuster or other defensive card is used against it. So basically, if they continue to pay the ransom, then you get to continue to keep the card. But the first 3 times that they decide, you know what, I'm going to bench the player and keep my money, or I can't pay you, I got to bench the player. The first 3 times that you win, then you'll have to give up the card. We're only going to let you get wins out of it 3 times. But if at any point your opponent beats you while that player's on the bench, then you lose the card. Does all that make sense?
It does. And I appreciate going outside of the hoarder genre just a little bit to get somebody that really fits the theme of this, right? I can't think of a horror film that has a hostage situation or some sort of somebody taking something hostage. So it makes a lot of sense. I do, I see this as maybe like a mid-season or towards the tail end of the mid-season playing ability where you're in a spot where you're trying to make a push for the playoffs, but you're going to be right on the bubble. You could potentially use some fab. Somebody's got enough in there, right? And they're like, oh, if I have them bench this person, right, I can win. Or if they give me fab, that means I could theoretically get a player next week for me to keep making that push a little bit farther. So it's a little bit like I like the gambling aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really interesting because I'm sure we're all used to those times about halfway through the season. You're like, oh man, I wish I had more fab right now, just so I can go and get that guy I really, really want that'll help me. And that's where I see this as being like the sweet spot for this one to be played.
Yeah, part of my inspiration for this is that I hate fab leagues. I honestly do. I despise them. I'm so bad with money in real life that it transfers over to my financial. Um, it's almost inappropriate how bad I am with money.
Me
So
too. I know the feeling. It's okay.
especially in fantasy football. So I'll either, try to save it to the end of the season and then end up never using hardly any, or I'll just completely blow it all early in the season and completely screw myself. But regardless, this is what inspired that. If you're somebody that just likes to sling money around and you want to try to get as much fab bucks as you can, the Donald Trump card from the previous episode is a good way to do that as well. And later on, there are other monster cards too that affect fab money that can help too. I couldn't necessarily put everything in the transactions category. Some of
Right.
them I had to, fudge the description just a little bit to make it almost fit a description. But but yeah, no, what you talked about, getting away from the horror genre a little bit, was out of the 120 cards, there's like 10 of them like this that aren't exactly horror. Um, as a matter of fact, one of them we're going to be going over on an episode real soon. Two more episodes from now is the Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb, the cartoon. And that was inspired by my 19-year-old son at the time, who
Sure.
said that I should have that. I should have a card of Dr. Doof. So but anyway, that's for another show, I guess. But yeah, there were several of them out there where I kind of got a little fun with it, and I know that they're popular characters, like who in our generation didn't love Die Hard, So,
Right.
uh,
Exactly. I have
but
a I have an advent calendar that we have up every Christmas of Hans Gruber falling down the levels of Nakatomi Plaza every single day.
that's
I
awesome.
proudly put it out, and if I had some shelves here, I probably would have it back over here in the corner if I could.
Was it a
So yeah, no,
25-story building, or did he fall from the
I'm not
20?
sure. I don't know, but it works
We need
either
to
way,
we need to find that out after the show, because that just ties right into to proving us right that it is a Christmas movie.
right?
Obviously,
It is a
whoever
Christmas movie.
created that advent calendar agrees.
Yeah, the movie would not happen if it wasn't based on a Christmas party. So it is absolutely a Christmas movie. I will die on this hill.
Well, that takes care of the transaction cards. The next episode, we're going to get into the defensive cards, which is how I usually like to play Frank. As a matter of fact, the very next card we're talking about, the first card on the next episode, is the Slimer Ghostbuster card, and that's a card that I've had almost every year in Frank, and I use it every week during Frank as a, hey, don't play your card against me, or it's just going to be a waste. That even the
It's a great
Ghostbuster, I
card.
think, was tweaked a little bit, but basically the same idea. Rumpelstiltskin and Negan Smith from The Walking Dead. All three of these are cards that have been Frank cards in the past, and some of them were tweaked just a bit, but we will be going over all three of them again in the next episode. But Brian, man, I appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
Um,
Thanks for having me. I appreciate
is there any work you're doing or any shout outs that you want to give to anything at
it.
all?
Man, I do not come prepared for that. I will say I'm in a fantasy football survivor league on the production side in Discord. So if anybody's interested in playing that next season, let me know. I can get you the application. It was super fun. I played it several years ago. And mix other fun things that we all love together. So playing Survivor at the same time as playing fantasy football. So if anybody's
Oh,
interested in Frank, they'll probably be interested in that.
yeah, absolutely. Anything wild and crazy like that for sure. And you know about the Powers League, right? The Fantasy Powers
Yes,
League. You do?
maybe,
Have you been in it?
maybe. I don't think so. I've
Okay.
a running joke with my family is I'm in so many fantasy football leagues, I don't remember which ones I'm in. So I'm
Well, the Fantasy
sure. What's one
Powers League
more?
has a lot of similarities with the Frankenstank League, and I was in it last year. I'm going to be in it again next year. But basically, they have different powers as well that are like these, except you have the same power all year long, and you
Okay,
can use it every week, or you can choose not to use it, or whatever. But
right.
pretty similar type of league. So I think they're going to have some openings. I'll keep you in mind since you're
Perfect.
a degenerate as well. So.
That's one way of putting it. Yes, that is the nice way of putting it. Yes.
All right, how can they reach out to you if they're interested?
I'm no longer in social medias, but just look at my name, first and last name, mac.com is probably the best way to go that way.
There you go. All right.
Awesome.
And you guys know you can reach out to me at Funday Draft on Blue Sky. You can email fundaydraft@gmail.com, or you can comment in the comment section on the YouTube here. And I've been checking it almost daily and answering questions about monster cards and whatnot. So, and again, opening registration soon, probably mid to late January, and we'll start filling up these divisions. It's one league, but multiple divisions. So anytime I can get 12 more, that's another division, all in the same league. The more the merrier, and the bigger it is, the more teams will allow into the playoffs, and the earlier we'll start the playoffs. It's just one of those kind of crazy leagues. So, but thanks for tuning in,
Super
guys.
fun.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I appreciate that. I'm excited to have it back. So, y'all have a good night, and thank you, Brian, for
Of course.
your help and your continued support.
Of course. Thanks. Have a good night.